Loya from Activision, Fabrice Pierre-Elien from Ubisoft, and Steve Dauterman from THQ. Please make them welcome.
Okay, well, I mean, this is the last session of the day, so I'd like to keep this fairly casual, fairly chilled. I think we've had a long couple of days, so you know, at any point, I think if anyone has any particular questions, I don't think there's any need to leave this till the end. If you've got something good that's worthwhile actually asking, just put your hand up, and it'd be good if the lady with the microphone at the back, that'd be great. You can just walk around and we can address that as we go. I think that's a nice way to proceed. But look, I think what might be the best way to go forward is actually to get Bob, Steve, and Fabrice in here to actually just tell us a little bit about your history, you know, at working with the publishers and things like that. And I mean, all of you have very established, long histories, so I think that might be a good idea just to get people to find out a little bit about yourself and how you fit in. So maybe start with Bob at the end there.
I'm Bob Loya. I'm Director of Developer Relations and Acquisitions at Activision Blizzard. Prior to that, I was at Vivendi Games. Recently, we merged with Activision in August. I've been at Vivendi my whole video game career. Prior to that, I worked at Creative Artists Agency in Los Angeles and was in law school prior to that. So I've been at one company which is very unique. The company has changed several times since I've been there. And right now, I am learning what it's like to work for the biggest publisher in the world.
Cool. Fabrice?
Good morning, everybody. So my name is Fabrice Pierre-Elien. I'm working at Ubisoft in Paris. I'm the business development manager at Ubisoft. So part of the partners, meaning that I'm a point of contact for developers trying to start a project to Ubisoft in Europe. Basically, I've been working for Ubisoft for 11 years now, so all my career, starting as a trainee and working from a producer to dev. It's been a very interesting journey, trying to witnessing from the interior, the transformation of the company from very small publisher to big.
Cool.
Hi everybody, my name is Steve Dauterman. I started my career in the early 90s working for George Lucas's company, Lucasfilm Games at the time. I spent 10 years there during the, I guess, the kind of heyday of the adventure games, the good Star Wars games, the good Star Wars movies. I left there in 1999 actually to take a job down here in Australia, set up a studio at EA down on the Gold Coast in 1999. It was a relatively short-lived studio, unfortunately, and I ended up going to the UK, working a year over there for EA, running their studio in Chertsey. Spent a year there, decided I wanted to make a change. I was in love with Australia, came back, and started with a small group of people. Here in Brisbane, we started THQ Studio Australia, and I've been here ever since, so 6 years nearly with THQ Studio Australia. About a year after starting that studio, we acquired Blue Tongue, so I oversee the 2 studios down here in Australia.
Great. Okay, fantastic. Well, look, I had to think about some of the questions I wanted to ask, and I kind of figured most of the people here are obviously going to be from a developer point of view, or students and things like that. I personally am a gaming journalist, so I have my own questions I'd like to ask the publishers as well. Look, first off, I'm actually curious. Within a publisher, who actually makes the call on the kind of games that actually get made? I mean, you see a lot of, in some publishers, a lot of sequels that just keep coming. I mean, this year especially, I struggle to think of more than 3 original IPs that have actually been released. Who actually makes the decisions on what games actually get made, and what makes you come to those conclusions?
Well, sadly, sometimes it is the dreaded committee. I think for a lot of publishers, and these guys probably have similar stories, I think within any organization, there's people that have influence and experience, and sometimes, sadly, there is the corporate mentality that drives the sequelitis, which is, we've made a $10, $20, $30 million investment, how do we get our money back? I'm actually sad to see that happen because I came out of the LucasArts days where we weren't driven by, that sort of mentality of, oh, you had to hit that quarter, you had to, do this or that. So the decisions actually come from a variety of different places. I think ideally, a big publisher, what they want to do is create franchises. They want to create, something that's going to get a good return on investment. What's interesting is, we're finding the biggest change over the past few years has been, well, we just can't put stuff out there that's, franchise or licensed that'll literally just sell. There's actually a push within THQ, and I think every organization, that quality matters, that we in some ways we're beholden to the game critics now, where I walk into meetings and they say, well, if it's not an 80+ rated game, we're not going to be able to sell it. And then you have to ask the question, what makes an 80+ rated game? Yeah. And what's interesting, I'm looking at sort of the game rankings and Metacritic ratings this holiday, and there's a lot of 80+ rated games, and I think they're starting to, that quality is starting to see through the business now. But it's how the games get started. Like I said, it comes from a variety of places. Something like the blog, which I was a champion of down here, it was literally, I just said, we need to be on the Wii. The company agreed. We had a cool idea, and if any of you saw the presentation that Nick and Terry did last week, it really did have, what you refer to as a soul, and that's what I'm most proud of that game. It had a soul. It was an original IP, but now we've got to sell it and keep that going. So we need people to buy it, and hopefully it.
How difficult is that with an original IP? I mean, to pitch that to a publisher?
It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Because they it's like the movie business. They want to know, okay, well, what's it like? And when we said, well, it's a platformer, but it's not a platformer. Music is an important part of it, but it's not. So they say, oh, music's important. Is it like Guitar Hero? No, it's not like Guitar Hero. It's hard, and I'm actually a firm believer in that single sort of creative leadership and that passion. And I think when the passion comes through to a publisher, I know Bob has been in the business development side. You look for that. You want to find that. I don't want developers who are trying to placate a publisher when they come to me and say, it's Age of Conan meets Mirror's Edge meets whatever the latest 3 popular games were, and you see that a lot.
Fair enough. Well, Bob, actually, yeah.
No, absolutely. Yahtzee brought it up, and he's absolutely correct. One of the questions that we ask on our diligence evaluations of developers or of games, who owns the vision within the developer? That really sets the course for the rest of the project. And back to the original question, at Activision, really what determines what games we make is our portfolio review. We pretty much know the games we're going to make through 2012 at this point. We realize where in the portfolio we have holes, whether it's in original IP or whether it's in licensing. So a good deal of that is determined by a committee, which really isn't unfortunate. There's a lot of research that goes into it. It's marketing, it's production, it's sales. Everybody has input into the type of game we want to make. Then it's our job to go out and find the developers or the IP to make those games. And it's very important for developers to have ongoing contact with publishers to understand what the publisher is looking for. The game you might be making now might not be a good fit for us in 2011, but that changes pretty quickly for 2012 and 2013, so it's very important to have an open dialogue so that you guys understand what we're looking for and we can have more productive meetings and evaluations.
Maybe for research, I was talking last night, you were telling me that you're actually looking after the Far Cry, the original Far Cry for Ubisoft sort of thing. Now, I mean, that was the original, the first of its time from Crytek that actually came to you. When they pitched that game to you, or when it came to you, I mean, how did they pitch it so that you actually picked it up? I mean,
it was quite funny actually. The first meeting I had with Crytek was at E3, I think, way back then.